Hey, Mr. Walsh's class, my name is Max Crawford. I'm Philip's cousin, and this is the first time that I've ever done something like this on camera instead of actually coming to the school and talking to y'all. Sorry I couldn't make it this morning, so just bear with me. I'm probably going to stutter a lot and things like that, but we're going to take you through a couple of things. We're going to show you around the studio in a little bit and just talk about what it's like to actually be a meteorologist. So, as I just said, I am a meteorologist. I've been doing this for a little over 2 years now, graduated from college not too long ago. I grew up just a little bit south of where y'all are sitting right now. I grew up in Flower Mound, Texas, and just always had a little bit of a fear for the weather. That might sound a little bit weird that I am a meteorologist and that I study that, and a lot of my life is about weather, but I used to be very, very scared of it. It just happened one afternoon in a Texas thunderstorm that I got really scared of it. I decided that I had to know the weather at all points in time through the entire day, and I just started to learn about it, and eventually it became something that I really loved, and I found out that you can go to school to study for it. So I grew up watching people like Troy Duncan and eventually Pete Delkus, David Finfrock, all those people that you probably still see today. And I would love to get back to Dallas at some point. So if you see them, just tell them that, put in a good word for me. Just a couple of things about what we do. Our name is Pinpoint Weather. We're KBTX3. We're here in Bryan College Station. That's just a couple hours south of where you guys are sitting right now. We're the Pinpoint Weather team. And the whole idea behind Pinpoint is that we want to pinpoint the location of a storm, of a cold front, of whatever is going to affect your day, and we want to tell you exactly what's going on in your neighborhood. So you'll see a whole lot of different branding things with different weather teams, and that's what we really try to hit home with people. There's storm trackers, there's first alert people, but we're the Pinpoint team. So that's what we're really all about here. There's a lot of fun stuff that we get to do. There's a picture of me with the clown nose on. Back when I was in West Texas, we got to do this thing called Red Nose Day, and that's just basically a thing where we wear clown noses to raise awareness for kids that are a little bit worse off than a lot of us are around the entire world, and we got to raise money for that. And Shell, he's my boss. He's the chief meteorologist here at KBTX, and he's got a bunch of celebrity friends. So he's hanging out with Cookie Monster and Elmo there. And actually I had forgotten that that's Cookie Monster right there. I called him Gonzo during one of my elementary school talks, and I had they gave me a lot of heck for that. So that's the Cookie Monster there. I almost called him Oscar. There's Elmo, and there's Shell hanging out with all of his celebrity friends. So he's a little bit more famous than I am. He's the chief meteorologist here. He's one of my many bosses among the chief meteorologist, the news director, the general manager, and even the sales director will occasionally tell me things to do. So, meteorology, we combine that with a little bit of broadcast stuff, and there's two things that we really need to talk about all the time. There's communication. That's a huge thing because we're in TV. I'm on a camera right now. We have to know how those things work. We have to know how to properly communicate to people, how to use words the right way, and how to simplify things, because meteorology is a very, very complicated science. And there are a lot of big words that we use: precipitation, intensification, supercells, things like that we try to make as simple as possible in order for everybody to understand it and for us to be able to communicate it quickly and concisely. Concisely meaning short, everything you need to know within just a couple of sentences. So that's our main goal as far as communication goes, but we also have to learn a lot of science. There's a lot of stuff that we do. There's stuff as far as just your temperature goes. There's your thermometer. There's the anemometer right there. Wind vane. You need to know which way the wind's blowing. And there's satellites way up above our head that are buzzing around and giving us a lot of data. Not only what cloud cover is going on, but the type of water content in the atmosphere and plenty of things like that. Also here in the top right is the radar. Radar is a very big deal. Not only do we need radar to talk about thunderstorm activity, but we can use it to find wildfires. We can use it to tell which direction storms are going in, and we can also use it to find rotation within storms to figure out if we need to issue a tornado warning or not. And speaking of that, as members of the media, we cannot issue any sort of thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings. So another little part of the communication process is that we have to be in constant communication with the National Weather Service, especially during times of severe weather, because the National Weather Service, it's a government organization. They're the ones who have the authority to issue things like that. So a lot of you probably have smartphones now. Sometimes you'll get alerts that say tornado warning for your area, flash flood warning for your area. Those are not issued by us, but the big thing that we can do is communicate that. And in addition to the warnings that you get on your phone, you can turn us on your TV or even on your phone nowadays, and we can tell you more information than what is just going to come through on your phone. So that's part of this big web of communication, is that we're the ones who are going to try to make that message clear, concise for you, and tell you exactly what's happening. That also brings back home our whole pinpoint philosophy. We want to tell you exactly where it is and when it's going to get to you, if it is at all. So a whole lot of stuff that we have to work with. And not only do we have to do it at the surface, but the atmosphere is in layers. We've got a lot of stuff going on as far as our forecast goes. And this is just a map of the middle layers of the atmosphere. So think of it like an onion, like ogres. So there's the surface, and then there's the lower levels of the atmosphere, there's the middle, and then there's the top. So this is just a picture of the middle levels of the atmosphere. And it's going to be kind of hard for me to ask you questions, but if you could take a guess, what do you think that this is? It's actually a map of, well, the United States. So there's the lower 48 right there, and then there's wind speeds at the middle and lower levels. It's actually even more than wind speeds. It's measuring the swirliness in the atmosphere, and we get this information a couple of different ways. The satellites can fire a bunch of microwave radiation that's harmless to us to the Earth, and it will come back to the satellite, and you can read the information that way. We also have weather balloons that we can launch up, and it'll have thermometers, barometers, a whole bunch of weather collecting stuff on there, and as it goes up in the atmosphere, it'll give us information. And not only do we do that here in College Station, in Houston, and where you guys are, but it's all over the country. So that's how we can put together a map like this and show what's going on in the even upper levels of the atmosphere. So the swirliness of this actually can tell us a lot about whether a thunderstorm will form and whether which way it's going to go too. So we use all levels of the atmosphere. A little bit lower, that's where we can start to see a lot more moisture in content in the air, and that's how we figure out where stuff is going to rain. So that's a picture that we have color coded here. That's green and blues. That's where we're expecting a lot of rain. So across the Lone Star State in this particular model, we're not expecting a whole lot of rain within the next couple hours, maybe even a couple of days. There is a surface model. I think you're probably seeing a couple of things that you recognize. Number one, there's a low pressure system just to our west, and then there's a big high pressure system that's actually dragging down a cold front. That's the one that you see here with the blue arrows. And cold fronts, remember, are always going to point in the direction that they are headed. So the cold air is actually going to be behind the cold front, and the cold front is bringing all that cold air down to where all the warmer air is. I'm going to take a breather. So we take all of this information that we have at every different point of the atmosphere, and we try to put it into something that everybody can understand. And that's what I was talking about. The communication factor is that anybody can take all these numbers and just give you a couple of things, but we're trying to make it look as good, as simple, and as accessible as possible. And so that's how you get your 7-day forecast and many other forecast graphics that we like to use to as well communicate what's going to happen, what you need to dress for, the things you need to be ready for whenever you maybe get out of school. Should you have an umbrella? That's what we're here to tell you. That's the edge that we have as broadcast meteorologists, is that we can tell you things like that. And that's our goal as broadcast meteorologists, is to be able to tell you what you can prepare for day in and day out. As of right now, best accuracy that we can have is about a 7-day forecast. Technology has come a long, long way, but there are so many changes in the atmosphere that when you get beyond 7 days, sometimes even when you get beyond 3 days, things can get a little bit fuzzy. So don't really trust a forecast if it's 7 to 10 days, or if it's 7 to 10 days out, things are good. But once it gets beyond 10 days, you really can't trust a weather forecast. Beyond that, you're really talking about, well, are we going to see above average temperatures or maybe above average precipitation? And that's really all you can say as far as a forecast goes about 10 days out or even beyond that. That's also when you start to get into the climate talk, which is really not what we do as broadcast meteorologists. Just a little bit about my education. I went to Texas A&M University and got my bachelor's degree in science in the atmospheric sciences department with the major of meteorology. So there's a lot of schools that will have meteorology majors, atmospheric sciences department. Not every broadcast meteorologist went to school and just got their meteorology degree. Some people have their master's in atmospheric science, some in atmospheric physics, some in climate science, environmental geoscience. There's a lot of different things within the field of earth science. that can get you where you're at today, but probably the most common is either a broadcast meteorology degree or just a straight meteorology degree, which is what is offered at Texas A&M. And again, that's about a 4-year education. There are plenty of broadcast meteorologists, though, that have gone on to get their masters, and you even get a couple of doctorate meteorologists, especially like on the Weather Channel. If you watch the Weather Channel, you may know Dr. Greg Forbes. He got his PhD in mesoscale severe meteorology, so he's the severe weather expert on the Weather Channel. That's why you can call him a doctor. I don't have my doctorate, but I can technically still call myself a scientist, even though I only have about 4 years of education. So that's about all I have as far as just a day-to-day basis of stuff as a meteorologist. We come in, we forecast. I come in really early. I wake up at about 3 a.m. every day, get in at 3:30, a little bit before that, and I come in, do some number crunching, do a little bit of forecasting, and then I try to put it all into the computer and give you something that I can show you and tell you a weather story day in and day out. So that's a little bit about how my day works in the morning hours. We're going to show you around the studio now and just show what the inside of a news station looks like. So we've moved on from the Weather Center and we are now in the newsroom. This is where all the news of the day gets put together. It's where people talk about what's going on, what we're going to put on all of our news shows, on the morning show, all the way through the 10 o'clock show. So we're going to keep going here. This is where all the anchors, all the producers, reporters, photographers, this is where they all hang out. So there's a couple of our morning show team. There's Kristen and Tennyson. There's Rusty hanging out right there. He's one of our anchors right now. And you notice all the TVs right now in the newsroom. That's where we get a lot of our news, or at least that's where we see what people are talking about. We've got stuff on sports. We got it on MSNBC, CNN, things like that. We use a lot of these TVs to just kind of figure out what everybody's talking about for the day. And then the biggest reason why people tune into us, though, other than the weather, is to get a little bit of local news. So we have tons of phones in the area. We've got scanner traffic up on the ceilings that are telling us what's going on with law enforcement so that we can get you current local news as quick as we can. So that's the newsroom. It's just like another office too. There's a break room. There's the news director's office. Pretty standard stuff. We'll show you the makeup room in just a little bit, which actually guys have to use too. We'll get you to that in just a little bit. Let's go check out the control room now. Do we want to keep rolling? Should I stop talking while we're doing this? Okay. Rolling? Yeah. Are we rolling? Okay, so 3, 2, 1, this is where the control room is. This is where everything happens, basically. All the stuff that you see on your camera all happens behind the scenes in here. There's a bunch of control room desks. There's a director board that Angela's working on right now, and all these screens are different cameras that we have that we can go to while we're doing our newscast. So there's a whole lot of stuff that comes on for every newscast. Sometimes we're able to put on a show with just 1 or 2 people back here, but most of the time there's 3, 4, 5 people that are controlling all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. So we've seen the control room, we've seen the newsroom, we've seen a little bit of the Weather Center. Let's check out the studio and see where everything actually goes down in a TV newscast. So we're going to start out with the news desk. That's the anchor news desk right here. This is where all the big important anchors come and talk about today's news. Pretty neat little setup that we have here. It was just renovated just a couple of years ago, so it's a pretty new studio. Over here is the Sports Center. This is where all the sports guys come out, talk mostly about Aggie sports and plenty of other stuff too, Baylor, TCU, whatever. Talk about all that. We've got a bunch of sports highlights going on here. They can get access to a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's a whole lot of technology that's just going on in this studio right now. And all of these cameras are they're controlled by computers. So that control room that we had in there, there's a bunch of joysticks in there, and that's how you control them. So there would be people behind these cameras, and they would control them this way with a bunch of different levers and things like that. But now they're all completely controlled by us in the control room. It really helps out with communication, because also you'll notice right here that I'm wearing an earpiece. It kind of looks like I'm a part of the Secret Service, but it's really just everybody in the control room able to talk to me, communicate to me how much time I have left in my weathercast, if something went wrong and we need to go to something else. Whatever they need to communicate to me is in my ear at all times. So here's the interview set. Right now we've got a big red couch there. It's for an American Heart Association event that we have, so we can change up the interview set. We can add a bunch of different pieces of furniture to it and all that good stuff. And then we also have an alternate news set. This is where Kathleen and Rusty like to do all of their news on our 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock shows, because we like to switch it up through the afternoon hours. We got a 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock show, so we like to make them look a little bit different so we're not giving you the exact same thing every day. Also, where I like to call home, this is the green wall. So this is where we do all of our weather stuff. We've got a camera that's looking at us at all times, that's currently looking a little bit farther away, but what we can do is look right at it and it'll give us a mirror image of ourselves. So we can look at that and we're not actually looking at a green screen. We've got 2 more TVs right here that'll show us ourselves while we're giving the weather, and we can see all the graphics that are actually being projected onto the green wall. We talked a little bit about how we have a makeup room, and it's not just for the ladies. Guys have to wear a little bit of makeup too. You see overhead, there are a ton of studio lights. So we are in HD now. Everybody in newscasts are in HD, so you got to look as good as possible because the camera can see really up close to your face. So let's take a look at a couple of things that I have to do in order to get ready before every single weathercast. Got my earpiece in, got my suit on and everything, I'm ready to go, but now I gotta clean my face up and make sure my hair looks good too. This is a pretty typical makeup room. There's a mirror and there's a bunch of lights, so it can give you a little bit of a preview of what it's going to look like outside. There's a lot of makeup equipment here that everybody that works in news is going to use. And yeah, it's a part of news that we have to do, especially now that everything is in HD. Those HD lights will take off several shades off your face. So you want to look exactly like you would look outside, so that's why you got to put on a little bit of makeup. You got to do your hair too, so you have to look presentable. You have to look professional. That's one of the drawbacks, or maybe pros, to being in broadcast, is that you have to look as good as possible. So if you like to look good, you like to be on TV, and you are a good communicator, then this is probably one of the jobs that you would maybe be interested in a little bit later on. So we got our makeup on, we have our equipment ready to go. I've got my show built up and the website's updated and all that good stuff. And so now we are where the magic happens. This is the weather center. Notice it's the biggest part of the studio, so that's pretty cool. There's a whole lot of stuff that we get to do here. When there's severe weather going on, everybody's gonna have room. Here's one part of the weather center where we can use a bunch of different computers. We can see exactly what's on air at whatever point in time it is. We can access a bunch of different stuff via the internet, or just all the stuff that's in our own computer mainframes and databases, and it's just a whole lot of access to a whole lot of stuff. So when there is severe weather going on, or when there's bad winter weather, fire weather, whatever it is, we can staff this weather center with 3+ people, 3, 4, 5 people, because there's a lot of room. That's one of the reasons why we have so much room in the weather center, is so that we can pack as many people in here that we possibly can. There's a couple of main computers right there, and a bunch of screens. You see a lot of screens. So we like to use as many as we can to get as many different angles of the atmosphere that we can look at the exact same time. And so we use all of these just about every single day. That's about all the time I have for today, guys. I'm sorry I don't have time to take any questions. I'd like to Skype with you, but I guess that's not really possible for today. But if you do have any questions, Mr. Walsh has got my email. He's got my information. If you want any more questions about science, what it's like to be a meteorologist, certain colleges that you can go to, anything like that, I'll be here for you. I'd love to meet y'all someday, but for now, this is just going to have to do. We'll see you a little bit later on.